Paul was speaking a few days after the Wrexham game. You've watched it back, you've reviewed it. What are your further reflections on the game?
We're still lost, unfortunately, but there were a lot of good things still. The goals, you're always disappointed, but the first one we spoke about was a little bit controversial in terms of, and it was hard to do too much about that, in terms of Harvey being down, and when the game wasn't stopped, he tried to get up and then couldn't quite get far enough out to leave their players offside. Second one, is an individual mistakes from our point of view. I still think more often than not you get away with that, but we didn't. And I think up until the third goal, while they had, Jake had to make a couple of saves, we were still in the game. I think, it would have been really obviously interesting had we got a goal and see how they would have reacted. We put more balls into the box than we have done all season to date, but couldn't quite make that breakthrough that we want. So, you see a 3-0 defeat and it's easy to just think, I should say it's not good enough, it's rubbish, it's this, it's that. But there were a lot of positives still from it, but not losing sight of the fact we want to win games of football, because that's how you're successful. So just trying to get a little bit of balance on that, but I'm not sure if we play that game again too many times you'd be the same outcome. So we're certainly not going into this game down, but want to try and get that winning feeling back, and the opportunities obviously at home. It's been a while, it feels like a long time since we were at home, to see if we can get back to winning ways.
With all that in mind, what's the week been like at Cheapside at training?
A bit quiet on Monday to start with, in truth, and again, that you don't mind that as manager, as in you don't want them coming in the happiest they've ever been when you've just suffered a defeat. At the same time, nothing we can do about that. What we can try to influence is the next game and the training sessions. Tuesday and today in particular, I thought the quality's been really high, and I've joked before, I often don't like that because I want them to save a bit for the weekend, but the quality I'm honestly seeing on the training ground is definitely an improvement on what certainly last season, the season before. Again, back to, we've got to make that or translate it to winning games of football on Saturdays or Tuesdays or wherever we play. But said before, it's a tough league we're in, so we've had to up our quality, but I'm sure if we can try and keep performing how we have done in a lot of games, the points will come.
Touch there on a tough league, tough games coming up, another one against the Crawley side, and probably no one fancy to be in the 6th position they are in now. Yeah,
without being unkind, I think they were sort of the wrong end of the bookmakers' odds, and probably some of that was on the back of him just surviving last season, but Scott went in there obviously during last season, but has now had that summer window certainly to try and bring players in and also implement his style of play more, and they've been impressive in all the games that I've watched of them. They've carried a real threat, and no surprise that they've scored the goals that they have. Quite inventive in and around the penalty area. Lots of players that are comfortable on the ball. I think it's only Notts County that have accumulated more passes to date in the season. So that gives you an indication of the style of play. And it's no fluke that they are where they are. So forget what the sort of bookmakers were saying at the start of the season. This is a tough game. So we're going to have to be good. I think if we are, and I can see ways that I believe we can cause them problems, but we've certainly got to be on as guard, defensively and organisation side of it, because as I said, they've looked a threat.
One of the players you'll have to keep an eye on is someone who fans were quite sad to see depart. I think a few of the squad were sad to see depart, him, Danilo, was he? Yeah,
very popular lad. He obviously wasn't let go instantly, but after a conversation, and an honest one, in the end Dan took up the option and left for Crawley just prior to the season starting, and he's been nice to watch from afar, as in that he's scored a couple of goals and he's got the starts that he was craving. So pleased for him. But as you touched on there, a popular lad as well, a good character, good person, and genuinely do wish him well, but not Saturday. Saturday I hope that he's still as popular as ever, through maybe not getting on the score sheet, but we know how often these things can work. And on probably a personal level, Alex Gilliard at Bradford not too long ago, so hopefully not another one of those stories.
You touched on it, a tough game as well. Last weekend against Wrexham, in post-match you said your team might have picked up a couple of injuries. We had a couple ruled out the day before the game.
Yeah.
Are you expecting any differences to the squad available to you?
In terms of the knocks we've had, we had quite a few lads that didn't train until today. There's still a question mark over one of those players. As always, they'll remain anonymous. And in terms of the two that were ruled out, one of those we expect to be fit, one will definitely not be fit. So we've still got to get through tomorrow, because again, joking aside, I thought they were going to be available to me last week, and it was only on the Friday that became apparent they weren't after training. So, because both actually had joined in training, but in the end wasn't to be. And like I said, one still a little bit, nothing too serious, but will be missing for definite. The other one we're hopeful on.
As part of the weekend, the club are celebrating the 145th anniversary since the club were formed. You've had 2 spells here. What are your standout memories from your time at the club?
Easy in a lot of ways, I guess, in terms of the promotions. But I think if I really thought about it, there's lots of things. For me, this was my first full-time job, so I was extremely grateful to get that opportunity, and at a club that's got loads and loads of history. We all often talk about how good the fan base is as well. So just little things like that even. But then I guess promotions, the cup run last year, but also a lot of the players that you manage over the years, whether it's people that you meet along the way. I've found it quite interesting myself, looking at some of the articles that have been done and some of the historic teams or moments that the club have many years ago. Certainly before I was born, things like that. And interesting watching the lads and the staff do the quiz. I'm not sure any of them are going to go on Mastermind. Maybe Dave, but to have Grimsby Town as their specialist subject. But good watching. And the other thing is the kits. It's been, you look at some of them and how just the style, the fit of the shirts changed. But I'm sure that's, sort of sparked a few memories or thoughts about players or certain teams. With kits, how they represent a certain, time. So I'm sure that a lot of the fans have had fun with that, and like I said, maybe a bit of reminiscing. And at the club at the weekend, I know they've got quite a bit going on. Some former players in attendance as well. I'm sure they'll have a good catch up. From our point of view, we want to try and contribute in terms of the here and now, and put on a good performance and see if we can get that victory to mark a milestone in the club's history.